Welcome. We're going to allow a couple seconds to let all our attendees come in today. My name is Noemi Guevara, and it's my pleasure as the Director of Alumni Engagement to welcome you to our next edition of the 49er Industry Chat. Before we start, we would like to inform you that this session is being recorded and it will live live on our website at csulb.edu/alumni. We also encourage you to submit any questions you have for our guest speaker today using the Q&A box located below. And now I would like to introduce our moderator for the chat, Lucia Cos. Lucia earned her degree in Spanish in 1975. She was recognized as a distinguished alumna in 2005 and now serves as a council member for CSULB alumni. Lucia, thank you for moderating the chat today, and now I turn it over to you.
Good afternoon. Carol Bosman-Anderson is a first-generation college graduate who leveraged her student work experience to build a fulfilling career in higher education. Bosman-Anderson held roles including college recruiter for Whittier College, assistant director of Alumni Relations at CSULB, a coordinator for the MBA and Undergraduate Business Administration Career Services at UC Riverside, and eventually director for the Career Center at CSU Dominguez Hills. Bosman-Anderson will speak to the importance of self-assessment, utilizing the Career Center, and pursuing your interest, and will even share lessons learned from working at her parents' business at the age of 10. Leading today's industry chat, please welcome Carol Bosman-Anderson.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome. And as a Cal State Long Beach alum, it feels great to be connected in this way. I love this series, and I hope that many students and alumni take advantage of the project that's been put together here, because I think it's fascinating. You heard an intro about me, and I have to tell you that I think that I moved into the field of career services mostly because I struggled so much myself when I was a student many years ago coming into Long Beach State, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And I knew I wanted to go to college, and I knew that was going to make a difference and launch me into career, but I did not know what I wanted to major in. And I dabbled in different subject matters. I, for a fleeting instance, thought I wanted to be a civil engineer until I took an engineering course, found out there was math involved. And I even considered a social worker. But I had some interests, and I kept focused on my interests. And I also had a foundation going in, and that was that I had worked in our family business. She mentioned, or Lucia mentioned it from the ripe old age of 10. She wasn't making that up. My parents were immigrants from Holland, and we were working in a vending company. They started a vending company that was related to the dairy business. So we all had jobs to do after school. And I think one thing that I will always credit my parents with is that you always want to aspire for the highest thing you can imagine in life. Don't settle. And it's going to take some work to get there. They had a tremendous work ethic. And I think that is the thing that really was instilled in me growing up, is that nothing that's good is going to be easy. So I arrived at Cal State Long Beach. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to plant myself in the Career Development Center on this campus and see if they can help me. And so I went through a battery of assessments, and I found out what my interests and skills were, and what my possible settings were for the world of work, and what that channeled me to. And what I found out is that I could take a battery of tests, but no test would tell me what to do. It would point me into directions, okay, possibilities, but no test would tell me what to do. And no career counselor was going to tell me what to do. I had to decide. So that was my first lesson. And what would decide it for me? Well, I found that as I moved through my college career, experience mattered. And I think that's my first lesson to all of you that are still in college right now as undergrads. Experience tests the water for you, takes theory into practice, and it really is very telling. It can certainly tell you don't want to do something for a living, and hopefully will tell you that you do. So I went in knowing all this, and I thought, well, okay, what is it that employers want? What major should I be in? Well, I majored in business because I thought it was practical. I like the softer side of the business major, human resources. I thought I'd choose that as my option ultimately. But what is it that employers want? And later on, as I became my professional career and career counseling, I found out again and again, this is what employers want. They're looking for a set of skills. They hope all college graduates come out with this set of skills. They're looking for great communicators, both written and oral. They're looking for team players, okay, who can get along with all types of people. They want individuals with strong interpersonal skills. They want someone who has a great work ethic, and they want problem solvers. Now, Lucia, who's our moderator today, she's done a lot of hiring, so I would welcome her to chime in if there's something I missed on the list. But universally, no matter what your major, when you talk about these entry-level types of jobs that students get hired for, that's the laundry list of an employer. They're hoping to find not only a degree, and it could be many kinds of degrees. It doesn't dictate what you become. Your degree does not dictate what you become. You do. So even if you were an accounting major, if you later decide you want to do something totally different, you can. No one's going to stop you. Your degree doesn't stop you from doing that. So those are some lessons that I started out with as a student. Yes, Lucia.
Carol, so the only thing I'd add to that as an employer hiring is do your research about the company that you're hiring for and understand and know what they do. So many people I interviewed didn't know what we did.
Yeah.
And also, with technology today, you can find out who's on their board and what is their strategic plan and what are some of their issues, because that's what will make you different from the other people that are interviewing.
And I couldn't agree more. And I got to be on the hiring side too later on in my career path. And you really want to hire someone that's put themselves in the driver's seat of your organization. And it shows passion, doesn't it? It shows passion and initiative when someone's taking the time to do that. So now, I was talking about that skill set that employers want, and I just wanted to retreat back to my own college days. So I knew I had some weaknesses, right? I was looking at these various job titles and their qualifications. I had some weaknesses. And so what I want my next lesson to all of you is that when you're in college, you should exploit the heck out of that college experience. And exploit sounds like a bad word, right? Exploit. But when you're in college and you're paying those student fees, your college career should not be going to school, heading to parking lot B and getting in your car and going to your part-time job. Because your college education and career, whether you're a commuter student or on campus, is your launch pad. It's going to send you out into the world. And what you want to do is take advantage of every opportunity that's presented as a student that will not be presented once you get out. And so that means you are going to involve yourself in activities and organizations and opportunities that shape and mold you and make you a better job candidate. Because ultimately, that's what this is all about. You want to be the best job candidate in that pile of resumes.
Carol, I have a question here.
Yes.
I think you answered partially.
Okay.
You mentioned you took many career assessment tests.
Yes.
And they didn't tell you what to do. Do you still recommend taking one for someone that may not know what to pursue?
I do, because they're so sophisticated now, and the resources that are there now will allow you to understand your own abilities and interests and connect them to possible careers. So the tools there to give you a laundry list of career opportunities to start with.
Now, Carol, you also talked about getting involved on campus.
Yes.
So I think that's so important, because when you have a resume and you're just starting out, what's important about some of the things that happen on campus?
So what I learned is that when I immersed myself in student activities, I was building that skill list that employers want. So not everything that is required of a college graduate happens in class. And I would say half of your education is what you do outside of class. And what did I do about that? Well, I had a shyness about me in those days. Public speaking, I feared greatly. So I thought, okay, face your fear, Carol, get over it. And I volunteered for an organization called Lectures and Forums with ASI. And we had to introduce keynote speakers to campus audiences. So suddenly I was in front of a microphone with a shaking hand, having to introduce people in front of an audience. And I did it again and again. And pretty soon, my hands didn't shake anymore. And I got very comfortable with it. And I found I enjoyed it. So, hey, there's one down. I really wanted to have a more socially oriented college experience. So I joined a sorority. Now, a fraternity or sorority may not be for everybody, but there are other organizations on campus that could be your match. What happens when you join an organization? Well, there are leadership opportunities, which I pursued. There are chances to solve problems. You're working with a variety of people from all walks of life. You're building your interpersonal skills. You're learning how to negotiate. There's a lot of those soft skills that you're developing when you get active. Now, the other thing is you want to get career-related experience. So it's not just the skill set, but it's experience that in some fashion relates to your goal. And what I found as a career counselor is I could talk to business majors or any major for that instance, and they would tell me about what they've been doing in school while they were going to school. Well, they've been working a job to pay the bills, and that's a completely honorable thing to do. I had to work 20 hours a week to pay my bills in school, but I was very proactive about what kind of job it was because I wanted it to relate to my goal. And so if you walked out the door and you want to be an HR person or a finance person and a management trainee, and you've never done any of that in a small way while you're in school, whether it's as a volunteer or in an internship or a club or organization, how is the employer to judge that you really have those competencies? Lucia, you want to join in on that one?
Yeah,
you're nodding your head.
will tell you because that was from a different era and I had to work 40 hours a week.
Oh boy.
but I had to learn the hard way. But back then, the competition for jobs, because I had a degree,
Yes.
even though it was a bachelor's degree in Spanish,
Yes.
it got me in the door because they were looking at it. And I still think they look for degrees anyway.
Yes.
But the other thing is that you took advantage of organizations also on campus. And then you got to figure out what skill sets you picked up. The only thing I would add is learn how to quantify the experiences so you can let whoever's interviewing you know what you learned from those experiences.
I agree.
Just telling you as somebody that hired people, okay?
Yeah, and I like the quantify piece. So you say you made a difference. I made a difference in my sorority. Okay. And I say, for instance, I said I was the treasurer, which I was, okay? And their bottom line was horrible. They didn't have enough money. So one example I could have given it in addition to saying I was treasurer of my sorority so I could handle responsibility would be to say, I increased our income stream by 25% in the year I was in my position.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's quantifying, right?
Quantifiable.
Yes. Now, I wanted to get back to also the fact that I worked in higher ed and I was a business major. So for all of you in our audience that are wondering, how do I make a business major help me move into higher ed? When I was ready to graduate, I had spent 4 years working on campus as a student assistant. I quit my job working for the family business because I wanted to be independent of that. And I think a lot of our students today work in family businesses. I ran into so many examples of that as a career counselor when I worked at Cal State Dominguez Hills. I do want to tell you that when you work in a family business, you are often called upon to do things that no other 18-year-old or 19-year-old would ever dream of doing in their regular part-time job at Starbucks. And so I really did get a foundation and a some tenacity out of working for a family business because I understood what that was like. And so don't ever discount any type of experience you get in college, whether paid or unpaid, and particularly if you work in the family business, because it has value to you. But moving on from there, I didn't want to be controlled by the family business, or my father in particular. He was a lousy boss. So I wanted to move on. And I thought, I'll get a job on campus because it'd be practical, but I don't want just any job. And I had been raised to believe I should do something special with my life, okay? So why not get a special job if I can find it? So I became a student assistant on campus, and I wasn't a mailroom clerk, and I wasn't working on the loading dock. No, I was working for the dean of students. So that was a choice I made that paid dividends for the rest of my life, because now I'm working in an environment that I'm totally unfamiliar with. Never encountered this before. I worked in a small business. I'm a business major thinking I want to work in business when I graduate, but I'm being exposed to a new environment where, guess what? They hire HR people, they hire finance people, they hire accounting people. And me, I'm interested in the softer side of my business major. They hire people who do marketing and communications and a whole host of other things.
So Carol,
yes.
talk a little bit about the mentorship and the networking that happens when you do something like that.
Okay, thank you very much for pointing me in that direction. What happened with that position was phenomenal because I worked in student life. The dean of students was familiar with my work, and I really made this job, the job that showed everybody that took notice that I could perform. I was driven to succeed. And that was just part of my fabric of my being. I wasn't just going to throw off this job as a job to make money. I was going to make people take notice that I made a difference in that job. And people did notice. So what happened is, I didn't know this, but I was creating my personal brand that they talk about nowadays, right? I had created a reputation for myself. That was number one. Number two, by working in student life and volunteering to do things in other departments, I was getting a network. Number three, because I religiously pursued the services of the Career Development Center, and this is on a campus of 32,000 students. I want you to think about this, 32,000 students, but I chose to use my Career Development Center, and the counselor that I saw became so familiar with my face that she started sending me job announcements. Now, this is before the internet. That she had to go to a Xerox copier, make the copy, drop it in an envelope with a note to me, and it went through US mail. And so, but when I look back later, I realized I had a mentor. I didn't even know I had a mentor, but she was mentoring me along the way. And so for all of you students today, you need to find your role models that can become your mentors. And it's so critically important during this proving stage of your life when you're in college. It'll pay dividends for the rest of your life. So going back to me, I got 2 job offers in business through the on-campus interview program. One was a retail management trainee for a department store. One was a bank management trainee. And I remember thinking, oh, is that all there is? I'm not feeling a lot of passion here, but you know, it's a first job. I can always transition from there. But I wasn't feeling the passion. And I looked around and I thought, where do I feel passion? I like working at the university. It's always ever changing. There's a mission. You're serving students. You're making a difference in their lives. There's so much to learn and so many interesting personalities here. Why don't I work in higher education? So then I changed my focus and I started looking for job notices in higher education and came across a job for a college recruiter. Well, I'm looking at the laundry list of qualifications and it seems to align with those qualifications the employer said they were looking for and that I was trying to develop as a student. I applied. Problem was it was at Whittier College, they wanted someone with a liberal arts degree. I'd gone to a big institution. I wasn't from a liberal arts college, but I did think I could get a reference. And so the vice president for student affairs knew my work and he wrote a reference letter for me. And as it turns out, his colleague was the vice president for advancement at Whittier College. And the rest was history. They gave me an interview and they hired me.
It comes down to who you know sometimes in terms of trying to, balance.
Yes.
what
And
works.
I wanted to add, there's nothing wrong with who you know,
No.
because at the end of the day, it's how you perform that decides what happens.
You have to back it up, right?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I think you answered the question about what kind of services do you recommend students to use from the career services. Have you covered most of that? Is there anything else?
I have one other thing I would add, and that is when you are on campus, there are so many professional associations that have student chapters on campus. And I became familiar with a number of them in the business area, and they can add such value to what happens to you upon graduation, because they have professional chapters all around in the nation. If they have a student chapter on campus, they have alumni that support those student organizations. And so that's a network of contacts for you before you graduate. And so that's another advantage of being a student again. And this is the other advantage. And I wanted to say, I talked about getting related experience while in college, but there's this whole thing about building a network and getting people to know you. And especially now that the world is online, you submit a resume in a database. Big deal, right? There's 400 other sheets of paper that got digitally scanned into this database. How do you set yourself apart from the competition? And that is where this whole notion of networking comes up. And when I was in college, the job market wasn't great. And we kept hearing this thing called the hidden job market. And I'd say, what the heck is a hidden job market? If there's not a job posting, there's no job. But the hidden job market really came down to people knowing of you personally and saying, I'm not going to go through the hassle of posting a job if I've already got a candidate in hand, or I'm not going to do a full-on search. I think I found at least one good recruit right here. And so you can network when you're in school and you're a student, and people are more willing to hear your argument about why you're a great pick, right? And also you can get information that way. And so one of the things that I did is I pursued, before I went into higher ed, I thought I was going to be in HR. And when a speaker came to a class in HR, I would go up to that speaker afterwards and say, can I ask a few other questions of you? Would you have any time later? Can I give you a call? And that happened on occasion when a gentleman from Xerox came to a class in HR that I was in. And he said, look, I don't have time today. Here's my business card. You call me and we'll chat. And so he took the time to chat with me, and he later hosted me for a tour of his facility at Xerox. It didn't pan out to anything, but it was a great connection. And I would never have had that connection had I not introduced myself in class. And, we're online right now because of COVID, but we have LinkedIn. We have professional seminars going on still virtually all around the countryside. My professional affiliations while at work are on a contact sheet we're going to provide you at the end of this. There are ways to pursue connections, even virtually, during this pandemic that get you known. And that's what I advise you to do. Yeah.
Carol, let me ask you a question. So that tour of, was it Boeing?
It was Xerox.
Xerox.
Yes.
Was that eye-opening also? Because it kind of opened the world a little bit more for you to see.
It did. It was amazing, and I guess what I decided is I didn't like it.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's no harm, no foul, right? I didn't like it. That was another experience that guided me to the right choice.
Yeah. And then I think you've already answered a question here that was, what was your first step into career in higher education? And it was the perfect segue because you set yourself up while you were still at Cal State Long Beach.
That's right.
Right? And so, and then how did you know that that was right for you at that moment?
Are you speaking of my first position?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you consider what I did, I was a recruiter, okay? And I tried to get high school students and transfer students from community colleges to enroll at Whittier College. That was my primary role. So I was doing sales. Now, I had spent 4 years or maybe a little longer at Cal State Long Beach working in a university environment, and I was pretty darn passionate about the university experience by then. I loved it. So if I had been told to pitch Ivory soap to anyone on the street and do that for a living every day of my life, I would have said, I'm not interested. But to pitch something I believed in so fervently, I'll do that every day of the week. I can do that, no sweat. And that's what really connected me to that job, is that I believed in what the product was.
Did you know right away after that job that that was an actual skill set, sales?
You know, no.
I'm curious. Yeah, but you do know now, so somewhere in between there, you figured it out, right?
I did. Yes, I did. I did.
Okay.
And I wanted to say for our listeners, you know, I later moved into an arena called career services. Well, to be a career counselor, I needed a graduate degree. But that doesn't mean that all possible occupational paths in the university setting require an advanced degree. And so my recruiting job did not. There are really interesting types of other positions that you can get into in higher ed that won't require you to have an advanced degree right away. Yes.
Sometimes there's just certification, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, there's another question. Do you have must-dos or things to consider when you reach your junior and senior year?
Get related work experience. I can't emphasize that enough, because you may as an individual know that you're great and you excelled as a student and you're really well known for what you do in your part-time work that you're doing. Because I rarely meet a student who's just going to school and not working. Okay, so you may think you've got it, the whole package, but you're competing against other people. That's the problem with the job market. You have competition. So you got to get past the competition. And Lucia, you were a hiring manager. I was a hiring manager. The lights light up when I got a resume that I checked off all the boxes. This person has done all the things I need them to do. They'll hit the job. Day one, they'll be off and running. And so that is the best thing you can do as an undergrad, get related experience.
I will tell you though, that some of the resumes looked really good until I met the applicants. Okay, because that's where the communication skills become important.
Yes.
And it's also how to sell yourself and quantify everything you did, because you can say you did it, but can you speak to it?
And you know, that's a whole other topic, folks.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, yes, the resume is important. It gets you in the door.
Right.
But that's not the end.
No, and you know, for those of you that are quieter in nature or shyer in nature, the best advice I could give you, in addition to having related work experience, is get the tools for the job search in line. And that's, you know, a great resume that's been critiqued by a knowledgeable person, maybe not just a friend. Okay. How about someone in the field of your choice? And then also polish those interviewing skills. And, you know, we have interview skills software now where you can actually do a videotaped interview with a mock employer on the screen and videotape yourself answering questions. And you know what I found when we would do mock interview reviews with a student, I would keep my mouth shut and they would just watch the tape and they'd say, oh no, I really did that. I can't believe I did that. You know, I was picking my nose in the middle of the interview, or I said 25 times. I can't believe I did that. So your first real interview should not be the practice run.
Right. You can, and I know that I talk with my hands, and that's
and I do too.
not a good thing.
Sit on those hands.
Right. So do you think everyone, or if you could secure an internship, even if your major doesn't require it?
I
What's
do.
the importance of internships?
It's absolutely critical. Now, I don't want to make people that feel they don't have time to work full-time or part-time and also do an internship feel like, oh, I'm a lost cause, because there are ways to work around that. And something that my students that worked full-time did, sometimes they were able to negotiate to work in a different part of their organization to get the related skills they needed. Sometimes they had the reputation. And I'll tell you what, when I was in my first job, I went back to graduate school And I had proven myself enough so that my boss at that time let me job share for 2 years.
Oh, that's
So,
great.
and do internships so that I could get my graduate degree finished. Yeah.
The other thing is that I can add to that as an employer,
Yes.
on the employer side, is when you're working at a business, look around and see how you can work within that business, like for their volunteer efforts, and you can get some skill sets from that and still make your face known to the higher ups.
Yes.
So there's a lot of stuff going on in businesses that you can ask, can I participate in that?
Yes. And
Yeah.
you know, Lucia, we wanted to talk about another environment you can work in to get skills and develop your experience, and that's nonprofit. And so because you're a business major, you may think I should work in business, right? And what I found as a business major, as the faculty that taught these classes, they're not career coaches, you know, and they didn't talk about other arenas where you could do the kind of work you want to do. So if you have a passion, if you're an accounting person and you're very good at that work, but you have a passion for something else too, you know, you have, you want to make the world a more humane place for animals. You love animal rescue groups and what they do. Get an accounting job with the Humane Society, or you love music and that's your avocation. Get a job with the symphony as their accounting person. You know, there's ways to merge those areas so that accounting can be passionate.
Right. And actually that's a big need in nonprofits, is they're really weak on the accounting side and the
Interesting.
fundraising side.
Uh-huh.
And fundraising becomes really good when you belong to organizations that are at the community that have people of stature and you talk to them.
Yes.
See, there's all sorts of way of networking for a purpose.
You know, and I provided a contact sheet that they'll give you at the end of the session to the audience that's listening. And so on it are 3 sources of job listings in nonprofits. And also there's a site called Volunteer Match, where you could just give your time and maybe not earn money while in college, but you get the relevant experience. And the thing about volunteering or doing an internship is not just the experience, but it's the people you meet that expand your network and become your advocates. You know, maybe not even mentors, but advocates. They want you to succeed, and they are connected to a lot of possibilities themselves. So
I'm going to throw one more thing in and then I'm going to go on to questions again.
okay.
What I found out is that if you're working for a company, Google their top management and whoever's on their board, and almost every time they are working for nonprofits. And if you start volunteering at those nonprofits, you can make yourself known and more visible to some of your senior leadership that could end up becoming your mentors.
Oh, that's a fabulous idea.
Yeah, that really works, because they go, hey, and then you can even walk up to them and say, hi, I work for you, the company you're on the board of, and this is what I do. And I love this organization, you know.
Oh, I think that's a great idea. And you know,
gotta work it.
and listen, you said a key word, it's called work. And so the best things in life do not come free. It takes persistence and effort, and you got to be in there for the long haul. If you're thinking of anything that you should be overcommitted to getting right, it's your career plan and what you want to do with your life.
Right.
And
one of the other questions. Oh,
get rid of that ringer. Sorry.
Okay. For someone. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
A couple more questions. Yeah, for someone in a different field that might be interested in transitioning to higher education, how can I get experience? Because you're already outside of the educational.
Okay, may I ask what their field is that they're in now?
I don't have that. It just says, how do you get experience? Do you recommend volunteering as an alum first to get their foot in the door?
You could do that. I mean, it depends on what it is you want to do. Yeah, let me think about this. So, you know, if I think about my field, which would ultimately I was in career services. So if I was looking at a potential hire, and I'll give you an example. I had a woman we hired who was a book sales rep. Now, how was she connected to career services? Well, she sold books to colleges. Okay, she sold textbooks to colleges. And so she was a midlife career changer. She ended up going to graduate school and becoming a career counselor. But before she needed an entry-level job into the field, and she was willing to take a pay cut, and we hired her to be an internship developer. So she did not have any higher ed experience except that she sold textbooks to higher ed, but she knew how to sell. And so we needed her to be developing internships with employers, and that's why we hired her. Yeah.
So that they kind of answered themselves, their question themselves in terms of volunteering as an alum. Join your alumni council at your school and make some connections. And I think you can even get access to the career centers as an alum.
You can.
Ask about that. And then if you're volunteering there, it's a perfect segue to making yourself known on that campus.
Yes,
I think.
I would agree. Yes.
Okay, then it says, what does a career counselor do? What's a typical day look like?
Oh, okay. All right, so a career counselor in my shop, which I'll call it my shop, okay, where I worked, we were at Cal State Dominguez Hills. And so we were a smaller Cal State. We didn't have the benefit of a really large staff. So as a career counselor, you would act as a career coach, a counselor and career coach to students at every phase of their college experience. They either were undecided or they knew what they wanted. They needed to help in job search, et cetera, finding an internship. So you would help with that. You would do presentations, large and small audiences, on all manner of topics related to career readiness and preparation. You would be writing somewhat. We did a lot of our own brochures and flyer development. We had a handbook on job search that we developed and put online. You might be doing social media, messaging students on Facebook, Instagram, et cetera. We did large scale recruiting events that you would be a part of. We ran job fairs and networking nights. You might be calling employers to present on a career panel. So you would invite them from various industries, depending on the theme of your career panel, and then be the moderator and field questions, just like Lucia is doing right now. And then so much has gone online. So doing alumni profiles online might be part of the work you do. And then there's the interaction piece with employers. So there's this whole recruiting side to what a career counselor might do. They might have a role, depending on the campus, where their job is to interact with a particular industry and then connect those employers in that industry with the students that they advise.
And do you work at all with the deans?
Yes. And so depending on the size of, I'll pick a larger campus on the, depending on the size, you would be assigned to a particular college and you would interact with the dean and other faculty in that college to address the needs of those students. What are their hiring needs? Do they have enough information on career paths? So it could be very diverse. If you have the College of Humanities, what you're dealing with would be entirely different from the College of Business. Yes. So you're in this very fortunate role where the more you interact with different groups on the campus, the more successful you are. And we do a lot of co-sponsored programming. So you have to be good at reaching out to various departments. If you're a smaller campus and budget dollars are tight, you need to have your friends in different places who want to collaborate with you to do projects and programs. And so, I mean, for me, it was just the best thing ever. I mean, I just had so much variety in my life and I enjoyed it tremendously.
Well, Carol, I think you just answered the last question, which was, is it important that you also be involved outside your office? Now, it doesn't matter if you're on college. This also works when you're in a company, right?
Very good point.
Don't focus just where you're working.
Get out of that little office cubicle, folks, if you want to move on and up. And my career was not so much moving up as moving out, because I worked in alumni relations and college recruiting, and then I went on to career services. So my career goals were not to be president of the campus. That sounded like a nightmare to me. And so The management at my level was just, it suited me just fine. So, think about what you want to do long-term, and, in any organizational setting, you should be making friends with those people.
Right. Now,
Yeah.
going back to assessment, because this is, I think, very important.
Yeah.
It's never too late to do assessment, right?
Never too late.
Even if you've done it as a younger self, right?
I'll tell you an interesting thing about assessment is that it's less revealing when you're younger because you haven't had life experience to confirm things. Like, it might ask you to talk about a variety of things that you enjoy doing and confirm that those are your interests. But if you have a lot of expanded life experiences, your interests grow. And so I found that revisiting assessments, even as a career counselor, was fascinating to me, because there were these core things that never shifted, but then there were new things that were added because of life experience. So especially for mid-career changers, I just think it's the best thing you could do for yourself. Mm-hmm.
Right. And we're almost ending here, and I know they're going to be putting up your list.
Yes.
But, excuse me. But can you give us, I think you've only got like 3 minutes left.
Okay.
What's your final words of encouragement to whoever's listening?
Oh boy. Okay. So I guess I want to say it's never too late to invest in your college career. Even if you're a senior, it's never too late to get in and find out the things that you need to do to be ready for a career path, to be ready for the job market. Even if you have graduated already, don't let that stop you from persisting. There were hiccups in my career path. I didn't always get to my first goal as fast as I wanted to. Be persistent. There's something that is just so sad when you have someone come into your office who's maybe 45 or 50 years old, and they feel like they missed that boat. They feel like, they don't have that second chance to really do what they always wanted to do. So don't deny yourself, get in and do the heavy lifting as soon as you can. Don't postpone it.
And then just weigh your work-life balance and really what's going to make you feel good about what you're doing. It's not always the money.
Oh gosh, if I wanted money.
Yeah. Now, of course, if you want money, you can go for it, and you're gonna have to find how to feed your soul outside of the job too.
And that happens too. I got to tell you, your avocation is that you want to play in a jazz band on weekends and nightclubs, right? But something's got to pay the bills during the week. And I often met students that were perfectly happy to do that because they knew what they had to look forward to at 5 o'clock. So you got to find that your work balance yourself. It's your path, nobody else's, right? And you don't want people, your best friend or even your parents to dictate that for you. I could have still been working in a vending company in Paramount if my dad had had it his way, right?
Right. Carol, what would you, how do you de-stress? What do you do outside of work that really makes everything worthwhile?
Boy, well, I'll tell you what calms me, and that is physical activity and being outdoors. And everyone's got that something that they pivot to when they just need to get their mind off things. And even when I worked, I would take a walk on my lunch hour. My last position as the director of the Career Center, the dean of the College of Business liked walking, and we discovered we had this, match. And it was just like a letdown time when we could talk shop, but there was no worry about, that it would go outside of our conversation. And in the meantime, we got some sunshine and fresh air. And I think that everyone needs that kind of a release valve. You got to discover what that is for you. Maybe it's going and doing a yoga session right after work. But it can't always just be work. And I tried to cut it off at a certain point at the end of the workday where I just didn't want to think about it anymore. I need to recharge my batteries. And that is vitally important for all of us at any stage of the game. It really is.
You probably got half a minute here. COVID, any impacts in your arena, or just changing the way you do business?
It's changing the way you do business. Everything is online. you know, what we're missing is the connection, and you know, we're in a service arena where connecting with humans is oh so important. So I can only say, let's get vaccinated quickly.
Right.
We can
Best
get
way
back
to
to,
network.
yeah,
and
and
online.
that's
Not
right.
online.
Yes. Yeah, because
Okay.
as we all know, as we're doing right now, you know, Zoom
Yeah.
is like the middle name of we all share right now is going on Zoom. So
Thank you so much, Carol. We're right at 1:45, and we're going to turn it back to Noemi
okay, thank
to
you.
finish it off. But thank you so much.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Lucia. Thank you, Carol. Carol, before we go, to our listeners, can they follow you on LinkedIn if they want to, you know, ask you questions in the future?
I would say just give them my email address if you would, and I'd be happy
Okay.
to respond that way. Yes.
Great. So if anyone wants to reach Carol, please email us and we'll be happy to connect you. Thank you both for a great conversation. To everyone, we encourage you to follow us on social media to learn about future programs like this, and we thank you for attending. Have a great day.